This is John Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have the Omega VERT 330 Juicer. We're going to go over 9 techniques here that I've figured out, and also with the help of some of my customers that have emailed me some of these techniques to definitely minimize the amount of pulp going in your juice. Number 1 is make sure you clean your screen well after every use. So here's the thing. This is the screen you're going to want to use. It's the white screen. And you get this special toothbrush looking brush. Very important after every use to scrub the screen outside and inside. Don't forget the inside. And if there's pulp dislodged, they have this like screwdriver end. You want to scrape it. Because here's the thing. If pulp gets lodged in these little holes, then guess what? Then juice is not going to flow through the holes. It's going to get backed up inside there. It has to go somewhere. It's going to, basically work its way through. I've found that actually pulp works its way underneath the screen in some cases when there's so much built up pressure. The other thing it does is actually seeps through the main gasket where the motor stem comes up. So that's because it has to go somewhere. So number 1, make sure your screen is clean after every use, because if you let the pulp dry in there, that stuff gets rock hard. It's really hard to get out. So in that case, what I'd recommend you do is soak this in some hot water and what's called OxyClean overnight, and that'll dislodge it, and then take your brush and scrub it out. Very important. This happens with every juicer if you don't clean the screen properly, so it's nothing specific to the Vert. Next thing is, this was actually a customer who emailed me this, slow down when you're juicing with the Omega VERT. Don't just start cramming stuff in there as fast as you can to get it through. This isn't a centrifugal ejection juicer. The faster you do things, the worse actually you're going to work. The worse it's going to work for you, the worse your results. You want to, the Vert runs at a slow RPM. It's designed in Korea. Maybe people are slow over there. They're not as fast paced as us Americans here. But we want to put something in it and let it run. And the best thing to do, and I don't expect everybody to do this, is you want to put something in there, and when pulp stops coming out of the machine, then you add your next thing. But that's the best, but I don't even do that. I usually put something in, and as long as I really can't see it and the pulp almost kind of stops coming out, I'll put something in. So slow down. The best results definitely if you wait till all the pulp stops coming out. Third way, really important, you want to get fresh, firm produce. So if you have mushy fruits, for example, and you're trying to juice fruits, and definitely the Omega VERT Juicer is one of the best juicers in my opinion to juice fruits. It does the best. I have other videos on YouTube. You can check them out on how it does fruits. But you want to get firm fruits. I found that with softer fruits, especially like mango, instead of making mango juice, it would make more of a mango nectar, so a much thicker consistency. So if you're using smushy old produce that's not as firm and fresh, guess what? You're going to get more mushy stuff, and it's not going to be like a real juice, and that's because of the produce you're using. The next tip too, and I've mentioned this on other videos, is that one of the nice things about the Vert is that you can actually take the pulp that comes out of the machine and put it back through the machine to get it squeezed out more. Now when you do this, it will squeeze out more, but guess what? Also, it'll make your juice more pulpy. So if you don't want pulpy juice, don't put your pulp back through the machine. The next thing is, this is really important, things like celery and kale and collards that have long strings, even dandelion greens that have long strings in the stem, they tend to block up the small ejection port on the Omega VERT Juicer. So very important, if you're juicing celery like this, it's best not to feed it just right in the whole piece. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a nice knife and you're going to cut it up into about 1-inch pieces. And when you do this, now the long string that was in this piece here, and we could peel this off. I'm sure this has all gotten stuck in your teeth before. I mean, look, these long strings get stuck when it's coming out of the Vert, but once we cut it up, now these strings are a lot shorter, and you're not going to have that same problem, because what happens is the outlet where the pulp comes out basically gets clogged up with all this fiber, and then stuff can't move out of the machine. Cut up your celery, and even things like dino kale. These have nice long stems too, which have strings as well. You're going to want to take the knife once again and chop this into about inch-long pieces, and that'll definitely minimize the amount of fiber in your juice. The next solution is to strain your juice further. You could just get a sieve at the dollar store and put that on the pulp collection cup to sieve out your juice as it comes out of the machine. And undoubtedly you will have to take this out and maybe empty it out halfway between juicing because it will fill up with pulp, and that's the job of the sieve. So use a sieve. The other way that's, actually a customer wrote in and recommend that he did this, and this is what's called a nut milk bag or a sprout bag, but the customer actually uses what's called a paint strainer bag from a paint store or a Lowe's or Home Depot. It looks pretty much like this. It's nylon, and he just lined his juice collection cup with the bag. Then he juiced into the bag, and when he was done, he literally just took up this bag like this, and then just basically went like this, and all the juice went into the cup, and all the fiber was left in the bag, and there you go, another way to have pulp-free juice. The other way to minimize the pulp in the juice is to rotate the produce being juiced. Very important. I've mentioned this in most all my videos, and probably other people, selling the juicer don't ever mention this, and I don't know why. It's really smart to rotate the produce. So say you're going to juice all these carrots and all this celery and all these cucumbers here and all this lettuce. You don't want to just put all carrots in, then do all your lettuce, then all your cucumbers. You want to do like, one carrot, one celery, and remember, you're pre-cutting your celery, a little bit of celery, then some cucumber. You don't have to pre-cut the cucumbers, they're fine. Then some carrot. You don't have to pre-cut the carrots either, just things with long strings in them. And rotate your produce, and that way, each of the produce, like the cucumber is very soft produce, and these have strings in it. The carrots are just kind of hard, fibrous, and each different kinds of produce and the fibers in the produce helps the machine get that produce through the machine. And the more different varied kinds of fibers you could give the vert, the better it's going to work for you. So if you're trying to just juice all kale, then you definitely better cut them up, and it's still going to work, but it might not be as good as if you juice some kale with some celery and apples, and that's what I tend to juice. So if your juicing style is you like to mix a couple different things at a time, guess what? You're going to have better results with the vert than if you try to just, if you're one of the people that wanted to juice straight kale juice. If you want to juice like straight kale juice, number one, that's really strong. You can get you real sick unless you're an advanced juicer. I'd recommend like the Omega 8004 or 8006 machine. I have other videos comparing the vert against those models so you can see the exact differences. So rotate the produce being juiced. The next thing to avoid extra pulp in your juice is use the right screen. This might sound basic, but some people don't read the directions. I don't know why people don't read the directions. Pretty basic. In the vert juicer, you get two screens. The white screen, which comes pre-assembled inside the vert, and then you get this other one, this yellow or orange screen, depending on if you're colorblind or not. Anyways, this screen has big holes. So guess what? If you use this screen in the vert, you're gonna get a juice with more pulp in it. So don't use this screen if you don't want the pulp. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about, and this may void your warranty, so I don't recommend doing it, and it'll definitely mess up how the juicer works, but you will probably get less pulp in the juice. I was playing with a vert juicer just the other night, extracting coconut milk out of mature coconut meat, blend it up in the blender with some water. I make my own coconut milk at home. It's so delicious. Using the vert to extract it worked really well. But what I did was I modified the plug on the bottom of the machine. So once again, this may void your warranty, and if you do this, your vert is never going to be the same again. If you don't want to do this a smart way, you could call up Omega, order an extra plug, and you could have one plug that's cut down and one plug that's not. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to cut down that plug, and let me show you what I'm going to do, and I'll do it right here for you now. We're going to take this apart here, and on the bottom, you have this plug on the flap. And when you put that plug in place, you see it covers this whole place where the pulp comes out of the machine. And what this plug does, it actually keeps the pulp inside the machine to further get it juiced. So this is a benefit so that you get a higher yield. But if you're juicing some things like kale and celery and other things, it actually may hinder you because this will actually cause the pulp to get stuck back up in the machine, and then you'll be in a backup condition where the pulp will try to seep underneath the screen and seep down through this hole because it needs to go somewhere and it's not going out here. So what you're going to do with this modification, once again, this may void your warranty and I cannot be held responsible. You're going to basically just take some scissors and very carefully, you're going to see when you plug that in, and you could run your machine without this plug-in, and that's going to do the same thing that I'm doing with it. But the problem you'll have with that is that now some of the pulp and the juice is going to spill out on your motor base, and we don't want that. So this modification, you're just going to cut a little bit off the plug here, so most of it is not actually going into the hole anymore, but at least the last part is still in the hole to prevent the pulp coming out and seeping onto your motor base. So I cut off a good section of that, and now it basically just plugs the hole, but now provides a free flow method of the pulp to go through the machine. So this is absolutely the last resort. Don't recommend this for everybody, but if you like screwing around and making modifications to your cars and your computers and whatever else, you could now do that to your juicer. Once again, it may void the warranty, and definitely if you do this, you'll get less pulp in your juice, but guess what? Your pulp is going to be a little bit wetter as well, because now the pulp's not staying in the machine. So your choice if you want to do this or not. So those are some of the techniques to reduce the amount of pulp in your juice. So this is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.